This is why you want to surround yourself with interesting people, right? If you're the most interesting person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? And then that's an expression. And I really believe that, because when you are having these conversations, you may not be an expert in something, but you might be able to offer them some information. And what's really, really important, and another aspect of building your business, is you might know someone that you could refer them to. Absolutely. And that's a big thing in this industry. And when we're building our business, we don't want to, come from a place of lack of and hoard it, and just keep it to ourselves. We know so many incredible people. Like, I know this fabulous woman, Kathe, who has an amazing podcast, and she does work around sales. Like, you should really connect with her. Let me connect you.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we have with us an individual that is a business maven and a master coach. She's the best-selling author of a book called Unlocking Secrets that's published by Hay House. And after 25 years as a sales executive for luxury brands such as Chanel and Cartier, she brings her expertise so that she can help others create a life that they want. And on top of all that, she has the mentality that you can do it all, which I love. That I absolutely love that. So welcome to the show today, Kathe Crawford. Yay!
Thank you, Kathe. It's a pleasure to be here. It's so great. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, I am too. When I can talk sales with someone else, that always just makes me happy. So let's start on talking about with entrepreneurs. They have started their business. If they're an online entrepreneur, even if they're not, they put together a website. They're putting things together. Then what? How do they get clients? That's the $1 million question.
I love that this is what we're going to talk about, because this is exactly what it's so common. This is exactly what happens to all of us, right? We're really, really good at what we do, either the service that we provide or the product that we offer, and we may have had a really successful career doing that, or something grows and births out of what we were doing to do what we really love. But what happens is, we go to our business coaches and we develop our website, and we've got our programs and we've got online courses. And as we often hear the expression, and then we have crickets, right? Mm-hmm. Because we're really just screaming into a black hole, mm-hmm. right? Because we think this is the new way of getting business, finding clients, and networking. And this kind of happened to me when I first left corporate and I started my own business. I thought this was the new way of this is how we do business, right? But what I really realized, and I am so passionate and teach on now, it's really the old way of how we used to get business. And how we used to find our business was 9 times out of 10 on referral. Mm-hmm. If I needed a great babysitter, I'd call a friend. Do you know any babysitters? If I needed a new roof on my house, hey, do you know a guy or a company that does really good work? Tell me about your experience, right? So it was word of mouth. And I will say that is where we need to start. I believe in high touch versus high tech. Because when we scream into the black hole and we pay for Facebook ads and we pay to be there's even podcasts where you could pay to be on somebody's podcast, right? There's so many ways to market ourselves. What I found, and I love marketing, but as being a sales expert, there's that fine line between the marketing team and the sales team, right?
Absolutely, yes.
The marketing team says you've got nothing to sell unless you do all this marketing. And the salesperson says, well, without a sale, you'd have no budget to market anything.
Right. And no
And
business. Right.
right, no business.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't call yourself a business owner if you don't have a client. And all it
Right.
takes is one. Especially I work a lot with service providers, right? So whether they're health providers, life coaches, a lot of coaching, right? Selling their services. And how could you call yourself a coach if you don't have a client? How
Mm-hmm.
could you be doing this work if you don't have a client? Which then also starts to lead into our crazy mindset. Well, what am I doing here? Right? Well, am I successful at this? Am I going to be good at this? And a lot of doubt starts to come up. So what I really got clear on and what I really am passionate about is that it's one conversation at a time, right? It's about having a conversation with someone, but the conversation is not about you.
Mm-hmm.
The conversation is never, ever about you. It's about finding out about that person and what is happening with them and what's going on in their life. And it's really a great opportunity to really start to reconnect with people because we've just all lived through 2.5 years, right, of not
Mm-hmm.
connecting with people. I just read an article about that this morning that I think it was on LinkedIn, so you can probably Google it, was that we are more inclined now to connect with people that are family and friends than we are with coworkers and people that we have worked with or have been colleagues in the past. Because of the disconnect, because of the Zoom calls, because of not really engaging the way we did in the past, we kind of forgot how to use that muscle.
Right. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So when starting out, I think the main ingredient to finding your client is to put yourself out there, but not into the world of marketing. It's to really look for each client individually and how you can serve and help and support them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You kind of jogged my memory a little bit about something as well too. So you're trying to connect with each person individually, but sometimes you may do a webinar or a Zoom call or something like that. And a lot of times they fail. And don't you think that they fail because, again, you're not thinking about the client so much? And there's a bunch of people in the room and you're not connecting. It's like you're in your mind, you're thinking of a bubble, like there's a bunch of people rather than really thinking about that one person and trying to connect with that one person. I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
I have a few thoughts on that. When I do a webinar,
Mm-hmm.
I do really more of a Zoom call. I don't do the traditional webinar where I'm not seeing the faces, I'm not seeing the clients, or I'm not seeing the people that have come to engage with me, to have a
Right.
conversation. I mean, just reading the chat box or having my assistant read the chat box and then filtering me questions is not personable. But when I can, make it live, put it on a Zoom call, just mute everybody, ask them to please, and try to, have the dog or the kids not barking in the background. That's real, right? And also when I'm on these calls, when I'm doing, maybe talking about how to have a sales call, I could do a digital online here, just watch my video, but they're not going to take away from it what I could do live.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what do you say to the entrepreneurs out there that are terrified of selling?
I think that's a story. I think it's a story that we have, it's like public speaking, although
Mm-hmm.
I do think I would be probably much more fearful of in the beginning of public speaking. But I really, I think what happens is that they're afraid of it because it feels sleazy, right? It feels cheesy. And I think that one of the reasons that happens is because the person who's selling is trying to sell themselves. They're trying to sell their product. They're trying to sell
Right.
their service. They are not connected to the person that's in front of them and listening to what their needs are.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is like the number one, and I say this all the time, the number one priority in any sales call is not you, your product, your features or benefits. It's not about the competition. It is about the client.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And a lot of people get nervous. Well, what am I going to talk about? You're not going to talk. You're going to listen. You're going to ask powerful questions. You're going to ask questions that will lead you to find out what the client needs. What are the results that they're looking for? Why did they come to you?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Absolutely.
it's time to then start to think, how might your service or product help that individual?
Absolutely. What's your thoughts about doing research before you speak to somebody? How deep of a dive do you do before you speak to somebody, a potential customer?
Well, I think that, first of all, my clients come to me and I kind of know where they're coming from,
Okay.
right? If your clients are coming to you on referral or recommendation, or they've heard about you, who's ever doing the referral can, give you some background, absolutely, and what their needs are. And I think that, I don't want to say that finding out more about your client isn't important. Of course it is. But the key to finding out more about your client is on that call.
Mm-hmm.
What we put out in social media or on our website or anything that we put out into the world, that's a lot of it is marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you may find out about a product that a client might be, doing, or, offering, or a service. But yeah, research has its place, but the time to really get to know it is during the sales call.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, to get clients to come to you, whether it's referrals or whatever it might be, don't you, in some shape or form, have to become almost like a thought leader or known for something? And what's your thought about that?
I think that is really important. And I think that's something from a mindset point of view that most service or business owners don't always want to own, because they're like, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I?
Right.
And, in order to be a thought leader, you need the two most important things: thinking and leadership. Right. And if you, as a thought leader, are only following the Brene Browns, the Oprahs, the Simon Sinek, right? Seth, if we're following the people that everyone else, like our clients, are following, what separates us?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that in the terms of thought leadership, thinking, we have to begin to think outside of our containers. We need to read about innovation, technology, new things, the climate, entrepreneurship, something that's outside of, what you would normally be looking at. Mm-hmm. Because we want to spend time, we want to spend our time and surround ourselves with people who think differently, because that's what's going to separate you. And then when it comes to the leadership part, right, as leaders, the one thing about a leader is the number one requirement is that you have to share those thoughts, even if you're scared, even if you're afraid that they're not going to be received well, right? You have to be willing to do what scares you, and especially do it if it scares you, because if you're not afraid to share your point of view, and not everybody is going to agree with you, relate to you, and those that do will continue to follow you. You're speaking their language, and those that don't, you might have triggered something in them. You might have just triggered the fact that you are willing to go out there and be vulnerable. But what you're also willing to do is not just come from a place of vulnerability, which is, the big term, but you're also willing to come from a place of leadership and being a leader. So I think when you marry the two, where I think most people will take one or the other, but when you can marry that, being vulnerable to share your point of view, it's key. I really do believe that it's a key factor. And the way to do that is just start by writing. Start by writing. Put it down. Put it down on paper. Put it in a blog. When you join a group or a forum, don't join the group or the forum to hear what everybody else is saying. Join that group so you have a place, a platform to share your voice. Not your business, your voice and what you're passionate about.
Absolutely. And then I think what happens with that is people will come to realize that you're an expert in something, whatever it might be, and that they can go to you for help. And that's, in my mind, kind of like how you become that thought leader, because you're known in a specific industry, whatever it might be, as she's the go-to person. She's the one that will have the answers. She's the one that's done this before. Or, and it's because you've been vulnerable, maybe, and you've been bold and you've put it out there so that people know about it. Because if you keep it all to yourself, who's going to know?
Who's going to know? You're the best kept secret, and then again, then it always goes down to, I coach people both personally and professionally, right? They're either coming to me because of their business, something's not working, or personally, something's not working, right? Mm-hmm. And 9 times out of 10, I always hear there's a little piece about being visible. We all want to be rock stars, have great businesses and 6 and 7 figures and make a huge impact in the world. But you got to be willing to put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So talking about putting yourself out there, I'm going to bring something up which I'm sure a lot of people don't like, especially if you've done it before, about role playing and maybe practicing talking to someone. If you have never had a discovery call, any type of sales call, any of those type of things, the first time you're going to do it's pretty scary. But if you practice it and do some role playing, so what are your thoughts about role playing?
Oh,
I know it makes everybody cringe, but
yeah, well, everybody cringes, so maybe we'll find the new word, Kathe.
That's right, not role playing.
Yeah,
we'll find something else.
We're showing our sales background. All right, guys, we're all going to get in a room and role play. Oh, I used to cringe at that.
Oh, me too. Me too. And they would tape it. I don't know if they ever taped you, but
yeah,
they would tape it so you could watch it back and you could see all the stuff that you do. So,
oh no, please, but it's training. It's training. Let's use the word training, right? So, it's key. You can't just wing it. You got to know where that conversation starts, where it's going to take you and how it's going to end. And if you lose sight of that, it's, you're going to lose sight of the customer.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I think that, yes, absolutely. And that's why there's my jam is teaching you how to make money, teaching you how to get clients, right? Because you could do all the marketing that you want. You can take all the trainings that you want. You could be queen of every webinar that's out there. But unless you're doing it, unless you're putting it to work, how are you going to get good at it? And the chances are the business that you started because you're really good at what you do. Right? You're really good at what you do. You and I happen to be really good in sales. When I married that portion of who I was and my leadership skills into my coaching, I have to tell you, my business changed. I went from 0 to 100. It changed dramatically because I took what I knew best and I incorporated it into the work that I do. And I had one of my coaches, I remember saying to him, this is just so new. And, I'm really good at what I used to do. And I kind of want to almost go back to what I did because this, I was a rock star, I was doing really good. I was making lots of money. I was a leader. And I said, but this new thing, this speaking and motivation and coaching and all these new things. I'm not so good at that. And I remember he said to me, and I'll never forget it. He said to me, what have you been doing for the last 20 years?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
If not you teaching it, then who? Because you have the experience. So if you have a passion, whatever it is, and you're really good at it, when you get scared, if not you to teach it, who's going to be out there teaching it? Wouldn't you rather teach knowing that you are going to help that customer fulfill whatever their dreams are or what their needs are, rather than maybe getting a subpar teaching, whether they're on YouTube or whatever, wherever they're looking for information.
Absolutely.
Right. So if not you, then who? And it's all about exactly what you said. It's all about the customer, taking the customer by the hand and help them get to their end goal of whatever that is, solving their problem, whatever it is, and leading them to that. It's not about, the hard hitting somebody over the head, like you got to buy this, you got to buy this, you got to buy this. It's not about that at all. If you have to do that, don't you think, Kathe, if you have to do that hard sell, that's you're probably not the right coach. I wouldn't be the right coach. You know what I'm saying? If I did something like that. Because
we know from experience,
right.
You can't sell unless there's a relationship there, unless there's a trust. That's why to a lot of people, sales feels sleazy and cheesy. You go to the, I hate to do that, but you go to the car dealer, right? See, that's transactional. And what we're building in our businesses are relationships, one at a time.
Yes.
Right. So I, when you talk about being a rule breaker, I started breaking the rules I pissed a lot of people off with this whole marketing thing. Believe me, I love marketing. It has its place. But all I knew is the clients that were coming to me were feeling as failures, and they were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on this business that was not generating any revenue. Right. So it was time to say, stop marketing and start selling. How do we create revenue? How do we create sales so that you can pay for the website and the marketing and a VA and all the things that you need? And as entrepreneurs, we have to be willing to roll up our sleeves and do the work ourselves. And it's tough.
Absolutely.
But when the business is ready, you can then start to get, bring in the support that you need.
And doing those discovery calls or sales calls or whatever you want to call them is never beneath you. Sometimes I've run into that. Some people think, oh, I need to hire somebody to do that. Especially if they've never done it before. I think it's important. Don't you think that, it's something that is important because you are the one that's going to be building that relationship with the customer.
Coming from global luxury brands as Cartier and Chanel, and I know you're the face of the brand. Mm-hmm. Why would you give that to someone else? Right. Who else can talk about your business and about who you are and your values and your integrity more so than you? Mm-hmm. But see, people aren't always comfortable. And that's why it goes back to what you were saying, role playing, training. You have to know that it's inside of you and it's second nature, when you have that, because I don't look at them as sales calls. I look at them at conversations.
Yes.
I look at them. I used to even have a group called Courageous Conversations, right? The conversations we're afraid to have. We're afraid. So, you're the face of the brand, and to hand that over in the beginning, we're talking also, entrepreneurships and starting out, and, maybe your business is at, a certain plateau and you need to break through, but you're the face of the brand and nobody does you better than you. There's only one you.
Absolutely. And the thing about sales too, is I think people don't realize that they're selling every day, every single day. Like you go out on a date, or even if you're married or to your kids or whomever, you're selling some sort of idea to them. Like, oh, you should take this vitamin or whatever it is, whatever it might be. Or, you're basically always like selling like who you are in a way that it's not sleazy. You're just saying, this is who I am. And you're having and you're building a relationship with someone else. That in essence is selling. It's having a conversation. Exactly what you said is having a conversation and building a relationship. And that, quite frankly, is a form of selling.
Yeah. And it also ties back to what you were talking about when we were talking about, thought leadership. And this is why you want to surround yourself with interesting people, right? Mm-hmm. If you're the most interesting person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? And then that's an expression. And I really believe that, because when you are having these conversations, you may not be an expert in something, but you might be able to offer them some information. And what's really, really important, and another aspect of building your business, is you might know someone that you could refer them to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big thing in this industry. And when we're building our business, we don't want to, come from a place of lack of and hoard it, and just keep it to ourselves. We know so many incredible people, like, I know this fabulous woman, Kathe, who has an amazing podcast, and she does work around sales. Like, you should really connect with her. Let me connect you. Be a connector. And so you're going to have value to that person. So it's not so much that you're selling them, but you always want to have a value. You want to be able to offer something to someone. And and also as a coach, a big part of my work is also in offer and being a part of being who I am. It's being a kind person, a compassionate person, a person who really gets, down in the sandbox, down in the trenches, right, with my clients, and really want them to be successful and make it work. And Absolutely. So me keeping that client to myself, if they've done the work that they need to do and they need to do more work, I need to refer them. I need to send them so that they can continue to grow.
Yes.
I think that's Absolutely. Also a really good attitude to have.
Absolutely. Because again, it's all about the customer, isn't it? And the more, just think about it. If you help your customer grow and then you refer them to someone else, what's the chances that that person, that customer, will send other people to you?
Absolutely. That's
pretty great, right?
I don't even advertise. I do not advertise. Yes, I have my website. People can find me, but you don't have to because you've given them such an amazing experience. They will never forget you. If it wasn't for Kathe, right? If it wasn't for Kathe, I would have never discovered this or be where I am today. Let me share her with you, right? Yes. Good people, we share the wealth. So they will come to you on referrals. So every day that you're out there, right, you put your best foot forward. You present yourself in the manner that you want to be, that you want to be out in the world. Who do you want to show up as? I mean, one of the greatest things that I love doing is helping and serving people. And I'll get on a call with somebody and I'll say, how may I serve you today? How can I support you?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think if you come from that viewpoint, the rest, it just starts rolling in, because people know that you're there for them, not just to make a fast buck.
Yeah, it's sincerity.
Absolutely. Because I think every single time, if somebody approaches it from the wrong viewpoint of just making the money, not caring about the customer, it's going to come back and bite you. And it's not going to be a good thing. And I just want to say I so appreciate you. And thank you again, Kathe, for being here.
Thanks.